Hey guys, welcome back to the Wellham's World YouTube channel. Today we have another tier list. Did one last week of Pokemon, fighting type Pokemon, and in that video I said when I think I was grading Annihilate, and I said the reason he goes in top 5 is because he's the combination of my two favourite types, which is fighting and ghost. So I thought, why not do ghost type Pokemon tier list? So we have 60 plus. I don't have Mega Evolutions and I don't have Paradox Pokemon. That's just something that I've stuck with as a theme for these for the ice one, for the ice type tier list, and for the fighting type tier list, because I'll probably do all Mega Evolutions ranked and all Paradox Pokemon ranked. Obviously we're starting this coming week Pokemon Violet on the channel, so once we get into that a couple of weeks in and we've met some of the Paradox Pokemon, I'll probably look at doing that particular tier list and Mega Evolutions, and then eventually I'm going to go through all the typings. I'm going to go through Paradox, and I'm going to go through I'll do starters but include their evolutions as well as separate ones to rank, and things like that, and then eventually we'll get to every Pokemon ranked. I might do some based on regions as well, so I could do Kanto, Johto, Alola, that kind of thing. We'll sort of see how it goes, and see how I enjoy doing them. But the rankings, the tiers as usual: top 5, great, good, meh, and not a fan. And yeah, I think we can get pretty much straight into it. We've got some really good Pokemon in this list, some of which I'm more familiar with than others. I've not played every single Pokemon game, so there's some which I'm not too clued up on. However, I'll do my best, give as much justification as I can, but we all know, or anyone that's watched a previous one before, the tier that is meh is for Pokemon that I feel nothing about. I don't think they're particularly great, but I don't think they're bad. I just think that I feel nothing. So they just go in there, and then that's my justification, is I don't really care either way. They don't make me feel anything, so that's why they go in there. And I'm going to start it off with the only, from Gen 1, the only ghost types in Gen 1, and that is Ghastly, who is great. Haunter, who my cursor was on him, which is also great. Actually probably goes ahead of Ghastly. And Gengar, top 5. Now, what I'll do is, as I go along, I'll try and keep them in an order, so it goes from least to most favourite as much as it can. Things like for the meh category and probably really the good category, there's not really, they can kind of just go in any order, but certainly for top 5, for great and for not a fan, I can kind of give that my opinion on which are the best, which are the worst. And for me, Gengar, spoiler alert for when I eventually do every Pokemon ranked, Gengar's number 1, and Gengar is my favourite Pokemon ever. I think he's sick. I've got Gengar. I've got the Haunter, the Ghastly Haunter Gengar, evolution tree tattooed on the back of my thigh. So that just, I guess, shows the commitment of how much I like them. But yeah, they're definitely, amazing design in the original TV show. Bangers, really good. And they have featured in my team in some capacity in every single. So Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, I had Haunter in my team for a little bit. Pokemon Diamond ended the series with Gengar in my team. And even on Pokemon Sword, I had Haunter in my team for a little bit as well. So they're featured in every single one of my series. And I think potentially Haunter could also go top 5. But I'm going to leave him in great for now, and just, if I want to eke him in there at the end, then and fill that 5th spot, we'll see how I feel as I'm filling out the list, how I feel about some of the others, which I'm looking. And there aren't many that I would say are particularly bad. So I'm just kind of struggling. Where do I go? Do I just fill out some goods and greats? I think I could probably do that. And do I try and avoid giving away too much of my top 5 straight away. What I will do actually, I'll discuss some Pokemon that I think kind of get a bit of a rep. So the way, obviously, a lot of the original 151 Pokemon are based on animals in some kind of way. They're all kind of either based on a real life animal or they're like a dragon. You know, they're kind of like a living creature that's like a Pokemon. However, there's also some Pokemon that are like inanimate objects, which tend to get quite a bad rep in terms of people don't really tend to like them all that much. The examples that I'm looking at in this are like Honedge, which is a sword, Doublade, which is the evolution and swords, and then for some reason I can't see Aegislash there, which is another sword and shield type vibe. It's the third evolution. You've got Sinistea and Polteageist, which is a teacup and then a tea kettle or like a teapot, which I can't also see. They're all in alphabetical order. There it is, Polteageist, and you've got Poltergeist and Sinistea, which are from they're like kind of like different forms of Sinistea and Poltergeist. So they're from Brain Work, Violet, and they're from Paldea, and they tend to genuinely get a pretty bad rep. But what I will do, same with Litwick, Lampent, Chandelure. They're based on well, Litwick is obviously a candle, Lampent's a lantern, and then Chandelure is a chandelier. And even Brambleghast, it's brambles. And yeah, I think I've seen a lot of stuff online before about. There's one, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a set of keys, and people don't like them. Even I'm just still like looking through this list. Even like Coffer Egregious. It's a coffin, which I actually really like. I'm actually going to just whack. Coffer Egregious is he'll go in the bottom of great, but he'll be in great. Just while I'm looking at it. But I think Sinistea and Polteageist get to go in good. I think let's have a look at Bramblin. I think Bramblin and Brambleghast can go in meh. I'm not really sold on them either way. The same with Sandygast, Palossand. You've got Pumpkaboo and his evolution Gourgeist, which they're all kind of these like inanimate objecty type things, like Sandcastle. I would never. It's not one that I would ever really consider using in a team. So it's not really something that really, sticks out to me. But I will put Honedge, Doublade, and Aegislash all in good. Big fan of those. Even Delmise, which we'll get onto in a little bit. I'm not going to completely chuck him in this. I'm going to put Sinistea and where the hell did he go? Poltergeist, because I never really used them. They're not really. I've not got much to say about them either way. So they're basically. I think that's all of them that are going to go in meh, if I'm completely honest. So that's going to be the bulk of the sort of inanimate object ones. But even Drifloon and Drifblim, you've got their balloons, which I know, but I'm a big fan of them, and you'll find that out in a very short amount of time. But next we'll move on to Litwick, which I think is good, and Lampent, which I think is a great. I like the sort of. See, I like the theme of the Litwick line, sort of this moving from candle to lamp or lantern to a chandelier. And Chandelure, for me, is going top 5. Featured very, or relatively heavily actually, in my Pokemon Sword playthrough. Big fan. Really do like Chandelure a lot. So definitely looking at the rest of the ones that are up for debate, they go in top 5 easy. So the next one I want to talk about is Delmise. Now, if you look at Delmise and look at his design, it's an anchor and like a steering wheel for like a ship. that is relatively. It's like a sunken, like destroyed ship. It's a cool design, cool sort of concept. And the ghost, it's ghost grass type, which is I think the bit that kind of throws me off a little bit, because I would assume because it's from a ship, it'd be ghost water. I get why it's ghost grass with the seaweed that grows on it. If you look at the design, it's got seaweed growing on it, and that's absolutely fine. But for some reason, it just kind of throws me off a little bit that it's not ghost water. But anyway, it doesn't evolve. It's just as it is, and I'm going to put it at the top of good because I also think it is good. I'm going to also put Lampin above copper egregious. Yeah, Delmise it's a cool concept. That's all I'm going to say. Not one I've used particularly much, I would say, but again, I'm not gonna slag it off or anything. I think it's cool. And where are we going next? I'm trying to think of some that would go into not a fan, and looking at them, I'm just not really seeing any that I would consider putting in the bottom, to be honest. Maybe. Oh, I have actually seen. So Frillish, I'm going to put in meh. It's kind of like almost like a jellyfish kind of vibe. And Jellicent, which is the next evolution for it, the evolution stage for it, I think they kind of make it look shit. I think it looks just like it's obviously a jellyfish. However, I think the design, it just looks weird, and I can't explain it, and it just doesn't look right to me. And that's there's not much more to say in terms of. I just think it looks weird, and therefore I don't like it. I'd also actually put Spiritomb in not a fan. I'm just not a fan, and that's all there is to say. Oricorio. Actually, no, Oricorio's meh. I have no feelings either way. I don't dislike Oricorio, I just don't care. It's just not one for me. I'm just trying to look at filling out these bottom ones so we can talk about some more positive ones. Frostlass is another one I'm kind of meh. I'm not really a huge ice type fan. There's a few exceptions in Alolan Sandshrew and Hisuian Avalugg and Mamoswine and Articuno. Basically, the top 5 from my ice tier list, they're like the big exceptions for the ice type in general. Especially Mamoswine, featured very heavily in our Pokemon Sword playthrough. Love the guy, think he's great, but that's only part typing, isn't he? He's rock or ground and ice. Yeah, not huge on ice types. Rotom can go in good. I like Rotom, and I like his many forms. And I like that, especially in Sword as well, your sort of Pokedex and things like that are using your Rotom phone, and also the bike and things like that. They're all kind of linked to Rotom. I know Rotom is, he has many different forms as well. This is specifically just regular Rotom, but that's why he goes there as well. And I'm going to put Phantump, actually, just because he's caught my eye. Phantump is in good. It's absolutely adorable. And I'm going to put Trevenant in great, because I think the step up in evolution there, it's pretty spot on. I think it adds that's another reason why maybe you could have put Delmise as a water type as well, because Phantump is ghost grass, so you don't need multiple ghost grasses, do you, really? But Phantump and Trevenant go there. And I'm looking at, there's a few that I'd put in great, which are Hisuian, Typhlosion, Decidueye, and you know what? I slagged off the Gen 9, the Paldean starters, in my tier list for starter type Pokemon. Basically said the first, and that's why I want to do another starter type Pokemon with all their evolutions in there, so we can rank them all separately and explain each thing separately. Because the way I did it was I only ranked the first stage, but just took into consideration what they become, which is why Quaxley, Sprigatito were quite low. Skeledirge is Fuecoco's final evolution. I forget what his middle evolution is called by hate, I cannot stand the middle evolution, but I don't mind Skeledirge, and I really like Fuecoco. So I'm going to put him in good. I'm going to put him high up on good. When I did my Pokemon Violet playthrough in my own time when I first got the game, I did pick Fuecoco because of the three starters. I was like, that's the one I want to use. What we're going to do in the stream series is randomize it. So I could get Fuecoco again, might not. But I think he's pretty solid. I don't think it's anything too incredible, but I think it's certainly up there. And looking at what else we can look at next, I'm going to put Shedinja in good as well. I think Shedinja is absolutely fine. I'm going to put... Now I'm looking at Shuppet and Bannet, right? And for me, I like Shuppet, but I don't like Bannet. But I don't know if I'd put Bannet in not a fan or just meh. I think that's what it is. I think Shuppet, you look at Shuppet and you think that could be a cool evolution, and then it becomes Bannet and you're kind of like, I don't know, it looks very middle stage to me. I feel like when you've got like a 2-stage evolution, there needs to be something quite substantial in difference. But for me, it kind of looks like, if you look at Litwick, then Lampert, then Chandelure, it looks like there should be another stage of something afterwards, and it's just not. So I think that's why it's kind of like there just needs to be a bit extra to it. I'm looking at Hooper. Goes in meh. Have no feelings for Hooper. Actually, Blacephalon. I don't know how you say the name. Not fast. Do not like it. It's just a weird, but not like a nice weird. It's just a weird. Sableye is another one. I'm kind of like meh. And as is Petulant and Spectria. They're all just kind of like ones that I just have no real feelings for. Don't really have any sort of feelings either way. But we'll move on to a bit more positivity. I'm going to put Duskull in great. But then I'm only going to put Dusclops, its evolution, first evolution, in good, because I think it kind of loses a bit of the... I like the skull with the like illuminated, like the light is in the skull and it kind of looks like eyes, that kind of thing. But I think its final evolution, Dusk Noir, is also really good. I think it's a really solid design, and I kind of like the Grim Reaper look of Duskull. It kind of loses that in Dusclops, then kind of brings it back slightly with Dusk Noir. But the difference, like I don't know, it's hard to explain in my head. I can in my mind I'm thinking, you know, that's the way it is. I'm struggling to put it into words, but I know what I mean. But it kind of brings that, like the legs. If it was kind of like floating, the color change is weird to me, like the grey, and I think that kind of like it has that sort of, you know, cohesion between the first and third stage, but it sort of drops in that second stage, if that makes sense. Another ones I feel nothing towards are actually Gimmighoul and Goldengo. Just not really that fussed. Misdreavus, good. Mismagius, great. Really like Mismagius. And I think that's a good 2-stage. That's like, it's the same with Honchkrow and Murkrow and Honchkrow. You can very much see, and even Drifloon and Drifblim, like the difference is like it looks like it should be a 2-stage, whereas like I said, there are a couple. I think there was one with fighting type as well, which I can't remember what Pokemon it was, but I said that it looks like it should be a 3-stage, but it's not. So next I'm gonna go Annihilate top 5. Now that I've looked at him, he was in my top 5 in fighting. He's in my top 5 in Ghost. And why? Because it's a combination of my 2 favourite typings, and that's all there is to say. And I think I'm also going to put Alolan Marowak. Alolan Marowak goes in top 5. I like Cubone. I like regular Cubone. I also like Alolan Marowak, and I like regular Marowak, and I just think, I like the. I also think like Marowak kind of the like first like normal Marowak kind of suited a ghost type anyway. You obviously you encounter it in Lavender Town, and the whole point of Cubone is that it like wears the skull of its mum, and the ghost of Marowak, like the Marowak ghost that you encounter in Lavender Town, is the Cubone's mum. So it makes sense that Marowak would be a ghost type, which it isn't. So I like the sort of Alola Marowak. It kind of just makes sense to have Marowak as a ghost type. Now we've only got one more space in the top 5, and I'm looking at Dragapult, I'm looking at Drifblim, and I'm looking at Golurk. And I think Drifloon can go into great. Dreepy and Drakloak can all go into great, and Golurk can go into great. And that's very straightforward for me. I also think Ceruledge can go into great. Basculegion can go into good. Lunala can go into good. Necrozma can go into good as well. Now, another one I want to talk about is Yamask, and Yamask is the first stage to Cough Egregious, and for some reason I've only put regular Yamask in, and there's a Galarian Yamask, and Runa Regis is the evolution to Alolan Galarian Yamask, and I'm just going to put them both in good as well. I quite like the difference between Yamask and like the evolution of it. I really like, and I also like Runa Regis quite a bit as well. It's another one of those I would never use. Marshadow can go in good. Mimikyu can go in good. Hisuian and Zoroark can go in good. It's a very good. It's a very good typing. Very heavily good. I think another one I want to talk about actually now that I've seen it is Greavard. I think this was also introduced into Gen 9, which is obviously the most recent generation, which I was looking at it. There's a lot of dog Pokemon in Gen 9. So when I do my Violet stream series, be a good chance we have a lot of dogs in the team. But I want to talk about Greavard because I really like Greavard's first stage, and I think Houndstone, so the actual shape of the dog is bone, which I like ish, but then it just looks a bit off, and I like that it kind of becomes a Greavard is obviously a play on Graveyard, and Houndstone is obviously you find the headstones in a graveyard to mark the graves. So conceptually I understand it. I just think the execution of it is not great, and also the colouring of it. I think it's a weird. A lot of the Pokemon in the ghost typings are all purpley grey. I think there needs to be a little bit of diversity in there, which is why one of the reasons why I like Pumpkaboo. Just because it's just a bit different, and the same with Cough Egregious. I can't say that name. I say it wrong every time. And obviously Decidueye is a grass type starter in Rowlet. And then eventually will become Decidueye, which is a grass ghost. And I'm going to put Galarian Corsola in not a fan, because I'm not a fan. And now and Giratina is also great. Is a very good legendary, but just not anywhere near what I would say is top 5 for me personally. In terms of design wise, it's pretty cool, but it's not my favourite legendary, and that could be another tier list I do, is all legendary Pokemon ranked as well. So that might be another one that comes our way eventually. So the last 3 I've got are Dragapult, Drifblim, and Golurk, and I really like all 3 of these. Drifblim's great, but I am going to put it in great. I think it's between these two. So Dragapult is obviously Dragon, Ghost. Golurk is Rock, Ghost, obviously the evolution of Golett. And the thing I really like about Golurk is, especially in a TV series, he's absolutely fucking massive, and he should be way bigger in the game. He should just look bigger. And I think I'm going to put Dragapult at the top of great, and I'm going to put Golurk in the top 5, and I think Golurk does round off my top 5. I think that's the top 5 is Gengar, then Chandelure, then Annihilate, then Alolan Marowak, and then Golurk. And I think that's just the way that's my top 5. But I would say Dragapult and Drifblim it's close. I really like Drifblim. It's just in Pokemon Diamond, he's really awkward to catch because you've got to be at a specific place on a specific time and get there and catch him. And in Sword, which I played, he's easier to get, but you've got Gengar and you've got Chandelure that you can use if you want to use a Ghost type Pokemon. And then obviously in Gen 9 you have Annihilate. So it's like, I like Drifblim, but there's just other Ghost type Pokemon I'd rather use. And it's the same thing with Dragapult. I like the dual typing, but especially in Gen 9 where I've had him, you can get Annihilate, which has the Ghost type in it. You can also trade with a member, like an NPC, to get their Haunter, which becomes a Gengar. So you could use Gengar if you wanted a Ghost type. And then you can just use a different Dragon type, because you've got Salamence and you've got Haxorus that you could use. So there's like, it's up there in terms of the best ones, but there's just other ones that are slightly better that you could just use. And that's my list. So let me know what you think to it. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. I'd also be interested to see what people think about the what I was saying about the that inanimate object Pokemon, as opposed to sort of the living creatures and the animals and type inspired ones, or the ghost, the ones that are actually inspired just purely by ghosts. For example, Haunter, Ghastly, and Gengar, Mischievous. Like, what do you think? Things like Sinistea, Poltegeist, Honedge, which are just like inanimate objects that are Pokemon. Would be actually quite intrigued to know what people think of that. I'm actually going to put Jellicent at the bottom, Spiritomb just above that, because Jellicent sucks. And there you have it. That's my list. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll be back. Well, I'll be back on Monday for a stream, but I'll be back with Pokemon related content on Tuesday with the start of Pokemon Violet, and then, like I said last week, I'm not sure that these are going to be weekly, but I am enjoying doing them. So I might be back next week with another tier list, but until then, take care everybody, and goodbye.